Welcome back to For the Record. This week we're learning people haven't heard of many candidates in the race for governor. That's according to the new Marquette Law School poll that took a look at name identification. The poll released this week gives us a look at where Wisconsinites stand on key issues and races. We spoke with Director Charles Franklin about what name identification means in the first open gubernatorial race in more than 15 years.
All non-incumbents come out not very well known statewide, and that's what we see in this data. 39% recognize Congressman Tom Tiffany's name. That's the highest. And then on the Democratic side, we have three candidates in the 20s. David Crowley, the Milwaukee County exec, Lieutenant Governor Sarah Rodriguez, and Madison Legislative Representative Francesca Hong are all in the 20% range. All of the other candidates in both the Democratic and Republican Party are down in the teens for name recognition.
So we're talking name recognition here, but what does that mean? Why is it an important thing to take the temperature on?
Well, certainly you can't say you've made a choice for a candidate if you're not even familiar enough to recognize their name. If we ask a vote question, for example, with people who are really unknown, then people just go with their partisanship, and you're not learning anything about that candidate. You're just learning the balance of party identification in the state.
But the gubernatorial race isn't the only 2026 election the poll looked at. In the spring, voters will choose who they want to sit on the state's highest court. So far, there's one conservative, Maria Lazar, and one liberal, Chris Taylor, in the race.
The two candidates are even less well known than the gubernatorial candidates, over 80% not recognizing either the names. And voters want the candidates to talk about the issues in the Supreme Court race. We ask the question, should they talk about the issues so you know where they stand, or should they avoid issues so that they don't seem to prejudge cases that may come before them? Over 80% say they want them to talk about the issues, and that's sort of a change in judicial elections over the last decade.
The poll also took the temperature on key issues voters are worried about. 27% of registered voters identified inflation and the cost of living as the most important issue. 16% said illegal immigration and border security were the most important. Health insurance came in third with 14%, and jobs in the economy followed with 9%.
We're also trying to look at a lot of issues that may not be immediately relevant to the campaigns, but they tell us, what are these candidates going to have to deal with that are concerns of the voters? I would say healthcare is the most interesting or most surprising, because inflation has been at the top of people's agenda throughout 2024 and through this year, so it's not a surprise to see that so high. But healthcare, health insurance, had peaked in interest way back in 2006 and 2008, hasn't really been on the radar, but right now, with health insurance going up and the question of whether to extend tax credits for insurance coverage is much more on the table. Not the number one issue, but number three.
This poll also took a look at up-and-coming topics. This is a video from a rally in Janesville earlier this week where residents gathered to protest against an AI data center potentially going up in their city. But according to the poll, not everyone is against the centers. A majority of voters statewide, 55%, say the costs of large data centers are greater than the benefits they will provide, while 44% say the benefits outweigh the costs.
I think it's important that a lot of the debates about data centers have taken place in nonpartisan city councils and planning commissions, instead of being a partisan debate between, say, the governor and the legislature. If this issue starts to bubble up and end up in campaigns, then I'm pretty sure we'll see partisan divisions form and grow. But in an age where party division is so prevalent, it's kind of refreshing to find an issue where the parties just don't disagree on this issue at all.
This was a condensed version of our interview with Franklin. Our full conversation is up right now on channel3000.com. And every year, the Wisconsin Anti-Violent Effort Educational Fund partners with the Violence Policy Center, a national anti-gun death and injury research organization, on a report tracking gun deaths in Wisconsin. The latest report came out recently, and it shows overall guns are, quote, playing an increasingly lethal role in both suicide and homicide deaths in the state. That's particularly true for Black Wisconsinites rights and men. But notably, the rate for gun deaths in Wisconsin decreased slightly from 2022 to 2023, marking the first time in 5 years Wisconsin has seen a dip. Now, during the pandemic's early days, gun violence spiked across the country. In response, the Biden administration enacted the American Rescue Plan. ARPA ended up funding several programs dedicated to community violence intervention in Wisconsin. Both of those facts are key for understanding the pattern of gun deaths the report details.
We're really concerned by the fact that that's led to more people dying by firearms. Some of this is coming back from pandemic highs.
But all ARPA funds have to be spent by the end of 2026. That could spell the end of some of these violence intervention programs, as we've seen happen with other ARPA-funded programs. That's part of the reason WAVE believes Wisconsin needs stricter gun laws, something it says could become more feasible this year.
We do think that there's a chance that some gun violence prevention laws will be able to move in this session. We're seeing the tides turn. Every single session, more and more legislators are signing on to these bills, so we know we're getting closer.
And next on For the Record, we talk with Wisconsin's Capitol TV network about how funding issues could impact access to the Capitol.